All right, everyone. Thread from Brian Cates. It's going to be a big May. There's no way Barr doesn't prosecute this. None. The documents show career federal law enforcement officials discussing among themselves how to invent a pretext for getting a key official in the incoming presidential administration fired from his job. These Mueller team goons getting their precious case against General Michael Flynn tossed out Judge Emmett Sullivan's courtroom just became the least of their worries. They have far more pressing questions that need answering. Am I going to be disbarred? Will I be going to prison? Remember what happened here. Somebody leaked a classified intelligence report to the Washington Post, in which phone call intercepts of the conversations between Flynn and Russian Ambassador Kislyak were included. Remember how that leak was framed to cast suspicion on Flynn. Initially, Flynn was placed under suspicion of coordinating or colluding with the Russian government to undermine or sabotage the newly enacted Russian sanctions that President Obama had just imposed. It was claimed that Flynn needed to be investigated to determine if he'd violated the Logan Act. Between the time that leak appeared in the Washington Post and FBI agents Peter Strzok and Joe Pientka showed up for a friendly interview with Flynn, Sally Yates talked up the Logan Act angle. So that criminal leak of a classified intel report containing the intercepts of the Flynn Kislyak phone calls is what started this entire process in motion. I've watched Yahoo's claim for 3 years now. Because DOJ does not talk about that leak, it's never been investigated. Well, my goodness, this whole thing is about to be rolled up from one end to the other. There's no good reason for both the Crossfire Hurricane team and the Mueller Special Counsel team to be withholding this stuff if it was an honest investigation of a real crime. A criminal act involving the leak of a classified intel report is what started the FBI's moving to investigate Flynn for supposed Logan Act violations. Is it really a surprise, then, that a U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri dug into the Flynn case and he discovers federal officials discussing among themselves how to invent a pretext to investigate Flynn and get him fired as the national security advisor? Let me tell you what we're going to find out next. Not only did federal officials leak a classified report to target Flynn and place him under suspicion so that they could move to investigate him and get him fired, we'll find out they went even further than that. We're going to see documentary evidence of these former federal law enforcement officials inside the FBI discussing both among themselves and with the Mueller special counsel how to invent a crime to charge Flynn with. This is the easiest prediction I have ever made. The fake news media out there has still kept the narrative alive that Flynn was caught colluding with the Russian government and lied about that. People who know the facts of the matter know this is not true and that it's never been true. Your reminder of these people are who were involved in the massive fraud enacted to allow legal spying on the Trump presidential campaign and then the Trump transition team and then the Trump administration while also targeting and going after General Michael Flynn. That would be Sally Yates. That would be Bill Priestap. That would be former FBI General Counsel James Baker. And then Bruce Orr and his wife, the lovely Nellie Orr. Then, of course, there are the FBI lovebirds, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Then James Rybicki, who was James Comey's chief of staff. And then Glenn Simpson, the top guy at Fusion GPS. And, of course, Christopher Steele. And then Mark Elias of Perkins Coie. And then Judge Rudolph Contreras. And then John Carlin, former head of the FBI's National Security Division, who announced his resignation from that job the day NSA Director Mike Rogers alerted the FISA court about the abuse of the unmasking system. And then, of course, Andrew McCabe, then Stefan Halper, John Brennan, James Clapper, and James Comey. Trump has said several times, "We caught him." Some of you didn't believe him. or you told yourself nothing was going to happen, you were wrong. It's all going to come out, and they're not showing you everything these goons did so that they can walk away from it. Not one shred of evidence ever existed that General Michael Flynn was a Russian agent. If there was, Mueller would have found it. This was all about discrediting and severely damaging the new Trump administration by painting his key advisor for national security and intelligence as a Russian spy. The actions of these federal officials were 100% motivated by politics. They put their heads together and came up with how to invent a pretext to discredit Flynn and get him fired and then prosecuted for his quote unquote Russian collusion. And it was all about taking down Trump.